AGI is here, and today we're going to talk about it, about how humans are losing or winning the race against AGI and AI. So, if you haven't heard the news, Claude just finally released a version of their Mythos model, and the Mythos model gained a lot of hype and attention when there was some information leaked about it a month ago or so, and probably a month and a half ago, and then there was chatter within the Claude organization about, hey, we have this model called Mythos, and it's the most powerful model we've ever seen. It's actually so powerful, so dangerous, we can't release it to the public. Now, is it true? Is it not true? I don't know. Probably a little bit of both, and probably a little bit of marketing hype, especially leading into Anthropic trying to get an IPO. For one, you have to know that Anthropic, they have taken the position of, hey, we are going to be the safe AI company. We're going to pursue AI safely and ethically, right, so that we don't destroy everyone. I think it's a marketing perspective, right? It's a marketing angle that they are leaning into to polarize against their competitors. Now, Claude and Anthropic have come out with a ton of amazing, well, Claude is Anthropic's AI system, a ton of amazing tools, resources, apps, and all that kind of stuff, super advanced stuff that is already causing disruption. I mean, over the past few months, they've come out with new features that have been, associated with what we call the SaaS apocalypse, right? Where they come up with a feature that is done by a company, software companies that typically they had a moat around, but now you can just do it with Claude Code with the right prompting and right sequences and working with that. Pretty absolutely incredible to see. Now, what I've found with AI, in fact, if you want to learn more about AI, check out the arsenal below, or if you just want to get started, even if you're on the fence, there's also a link below for my new book, #1 best-selling book, Send It Over, Master It. And this is all about how non-technical people are building real businesses, getting real results with AI. And there's some amazing tips, tricks, and tools in here and mindsets to approach AI. And I'll talk about that a little bit, about why I put some of these things in the book and, what's going on with AI, Mythos, and these models. But this is great for you if you know AI and you want to learn more, right? Or if you're on the edge and you just want to learn more about what it is and how you can incorporate it in your life. And I didn't talk much in this book, about specific models, specific prompts, and stuff like that, because the reality is it's all going to be outdated here in a couple weeks or months. So it's more the mindset and the approach that you need to have to actually have success, right? The real success, not just like, build me this fancy dashboard. For what, right? Applied to what? It's all about solving problems. It's not just doing something fancy or sexy or making something look cool, only if someone's willing to pay you for fancy, sexy, and looking cool. And the reality is with business and the real world is people don't necessarily always pay for that. They pay for a result, and results generally mean that they can make better decisions faster, right? And those better, faster decisions, then those allow them to make better more strategic decisions for their business to increase their revenue, increase their market share, lower their costs, reduce the amount of time, organize their workforce, just normal fundamental business things, okay? And so you have to keep that in mind when you start hearing about all these new models and updates coming out, right? So back to Claude, Mythos, and the other one they released is called Fable, Claude Fable. There's a couple things that you need to know about this. One, you have all the AI influencers, right? I guess I'm an AI influencer of sorts, but I'm more of a business influencer and entrepreneurship influencers because I want you to actually get results, not just like geek out on the tech specs of these new models. Anyways, they're all publishing all these things, amazing things you can do and build with AI. The issue is most people don't have a thing to point it to, and they think they need to have some advanced model, advanced dashboard, advanced thing in order to get results. And really the results are, again, doing your work faster, doing it better, being able to produce more things of higher value, right? Leveraging that, basically turning yourself into a mini CEO, all of which things I talk in this book that AI is enabling. And so what's happening, right, is they released this thing and they had months of chatter leading up to it. I kind of have this conspiracy theory that I jokingly say, but also it's not out of the realm of possibility that they actually have Claude running their marketing, right? And so a few months ago, they talked about how some hacker group hacked Claude Mythos and was using it to hack different companies and things like that. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not true, and maybe it was an inside job, right? To build up, right, fear, anticipation for this new model that they're releasing conveniently right before they go and try to do an IPO. And so there's a couple things here. One that is true with the models right now is they are subsidized by VCs, by these companies raising massive amounts of money to increase their valuation, to then get the capital they need to invest in their infrastructure, to invest in data centers, to invest in processing, and all of that, and development of these new models. Now, there's a question of when that will run out. And with Claude Mythos and Claude Fable, they've given everyone with the $200 subscription on Claude and Anthropic, they've given them access until I think June 22nd. And then after that, then on June 22nd, then you'll have to probably pay extra, maybe via API or pay by usage for the models. So there's no more unlimited usage for your $200 a month subscription. They're now looking at, okay, how can we start building a back end to their business? And because right now they basically have their front end. They have free to get people in, then they have like the lower tier paid plans, the middle tier, and then they have the higher tier, and they have their API usage, where you can plug in their API, you get access to all these models, but then you have to be much more conscious about how you actually use it. And with the API, you can plug that API into different applications, softwares, agents, and stuff like that. A lot of cool stuff, a lot of stuff you can do, but most of it is just like fancy stuff that you don't actually need to get real results. And I want to emphasize that for you, is that you don't need to have the latest and greatest of everything to get real results in business. The current models can already do that. And with Opus 4.8 that came out already, it's pretty incredible. And the funny thing is they're talking about Opus 4.8 using more tokens than their lower tier models like Sonnet or Haiku. And that's true, right? They come out with a new flagship model. It consumes more tokens, right? It uses them faster, but it should give you better results, so you don't have to be as strategic or experienced or pay as much attention to how you're using your tokens. So that's the thing. With that one, apparently Fable uses 5 times more tokens than Opus 4.8. Incredible, okay? So what's happening is they come up with this new model, they hype it up and all this kind of stuff, and because they want to get buy-in, they want to get investment, they want to, flex their muscles. We'll see how long that lasts, because like I mentioned, a lot of these tokens and usage are subsidized by VCs. And once they do an IPO, right, once they're not really raising money for the business, they have to start making profits. And in business, one of the best ways to make a profit is you have your front end set up, and then you have a back end to cater towards your power users or your higher end buyers. And back ends, these are what people are paying several $1,000s a month to $5,000 to $10,000 to $100,000+ a month, especially if you're a bigger enterprise client, really trying to leverage the most powerful models. And so they're trying to cater to that. And of course, that will happen. They will have bigger enterprise clients who are moving AI first that need to leverage this, and will be able to do the cost comparisons and all that to see, hey, should we be spending $100,000 a month on these AI systems to run our business? And to be fair, that's $1.2 million a year. That's actually not a lot for a larger organization, right? When you think about how the increase in productivity they can get and the reduction in unnecessary headcount. I think ultimately AI will produce more jobs, especially in the short term, because we need people in these positions to run and operate and manage these models and things. And a company that maximizes AI efficiency will still lose out to the same version of that company who maximizes AI efficiency but has double the employees, because double the employees, right, plus optimal output gives greater total output. I talk about that stuff in the book, right, in some of my other videos. Anyways, comes out, and so I think it's all just a marketing ploy to build up hype and attention for their launch, and then of course to shift the business models to start making profits and to test the waters there. But what's going to happen with all these models, and this is why I don't talk about specific prompts and stuff in this book, because I want it to be fairly evergreen, at least for the next 18 months. Beyond that, all bets are off. But what we've seen is you get this flagship model, and then the technology trickles down, because once you release something like this to the public, there's other AI models, AI companies that can look and kind of figure out what it's doing, how it's working, and then they can tune their models to this one. And then those models that are cheaper, are free, or able to be run locally, they get better and better and better. Especially now we're entering into the age and era, and this may be the real gateway and crossing of the Rubicon, right? You cross, you don't go back, but the real moment in which AI really starts to build itself. It is already. People from Claude and OpenAI have talked about how they don't really write code anymore. They have AI write the code, and then they just kind of manage the process and make sure that it's legit. And there was a saying that people talked about where it's like no longer with the new models that have come out, you're no longer looking at, did AI do the work, but did it do the right work, okay? And so that's a big difference, right? When you think about what these things can do and all of that. Now, what's inevitably gonna happen is new models are gonna keep coming out and the technology is gonna trickle down. Look at every single other area in life, in business. I mean, look, you're watching this maybe on your $1,000 plus $1,000, cell phone. That's a supercomputer, right? If you remember back in the dial-up internet days, I know if you're a younger viewer on this, you may not remember that, but you probably remember some of the older technology, and you compare it to today, and you compare the cost to that, right? It's so much cheaper to get so much more power and so much stuff. I mean, this happens in just about every single thing, especially when it comes to technology. So the flagship super advanced model today is going to end up being the basic, simple, everyday, free, cheap model in a few months, right? And with AI, it just moves faster and faster and faster. So that's a plus, right? That is a plus for you watching. And this is something I talk about in the book, that if you want the edge now and want to kind of get ahead, because there's an element of that where you need to have, if you're on the front lines of this, you can get a little more output, right? And you're kind of ahead of everyone else who isn't using those higher end models, okay? But the good news is that you can then get access to that tech in the future. So that's gonna inevitably happen. So don't worry, it's just gonna get better and better and better. And the good news is for those of you who are trying to figure out what problems to point this at and solve and actually create value, you're gonna do great. For those of you sitting on the sidelines, it's very easy to be overwhelmed by this and feel like you're just getting left behind. Just let you know, we're all getting left behind by this. It just moves so fast. There's no way to keep up with it. And that's why my book is called Send It Over Master It, because it's much better to produce something that is 80% of what you think it needs to be and put it out there than to try and make it perfect, because by the time you make it perfect, someone else already done it, the market has moved on, right? And you miss your opportunity. So now more than ever, you need to be producing, putting things out, right? Testing, seeing things, solving real problems that people are willing to pay for before AI and machines take over and can do everything. Now, I think that's a possibility, but I think it's still further and further out there than we expect, because the world is complicated. It takes a lot to figure a lot of stuff out, and even the smartest humans can't figure everything out. And AI, its problem is it doesn't know what to solve. Because it doesn't have, it can look at humans and our knowledge networks and what's going on in the world, but it has to learn what humans want, and even still, it's still just guessing. And so humans don't even know what we want and what the best outcome is. And so AI can't even know what we want and what the best outcome is. It can guess, right? But it's still just probabilities when it's doing that. It can get better and better, right? For sure. But it still has that human element that is missing. And I think that's gonna be important for a while for this kind of stuff. Doesn't mean it's not gonna be super advanced, super powerful, but it's just gonna take a bit. So anyways, when you hear about all this stuff, go play around with it. If you have access, go play around with the models and see what it can do versus the other ones. But then again, don't let it just distract you to producing what I call video game results. Again, fancy, cool things that have they're not sellable, or they're not applied to an audience. They're not solving people's problems. That is always going to be the thing that puts you ahead and helps you win. And the great thing is it doesn't need to be sexy. It doesn't need to be super advanced. It doesn't need to be cutting edge. It doesn't need anything like that. It just needs to tap into just normal human problems, right? How can you save people time? How can you save them money? How can you make them money, right? How can you make them feel good? How can you entertain them? All simple things there. And now obviously the market is updating and adjusting and all of that. And if you are on older models, start moving up to the more advanced models if you can, right? They will be coming to you as well. And start learning some of these different ways that you can start working through AI, right? Not just with it, but through AI. So you're changing your workflows, you're changing your mindset about what your role is in the workplace, in the workforce. And I like to think that the people that do this, they become AI operators, and they become like mini CEOs, right? Mini project managers. So instead of just working on an island as yourself, you have a whole team, which is great, which is amazing. Right? That's how businesses are built. And so I think it unlocks so much potential, and there's so many amazing, powerful ideas and solutions that you have, right, within you, based upon your life, your experience, things you know, people you know, that you can have a unique edge with AI because it reduces the time and the cost and the experience needed to actually implement those things. I think that's going to be absolutely incredible, and it's going to unlock so many cool things in the future. But there's going to be chaos, there's going to be hype, there's going to be all of this. And so the goal here isn't to get caught up in that. It's just, just keep progressing, keep learning, keep getting better, and keep training your mind to find problems that you can create legitimate solutions for, that people will pay you for, and you'll win. And so over the next coming weeks, we're going to see a lot of hype. We're going to see a lot of people talking about AI and Mythos. We're going to probably see updates from ChatGPT, from Grok, from DeepSeek, from all these other models incorporating it. You'll see new companies, new things popping up, and all of that. And you don't want to get distracted just jumping around between all these different things. Again, targeted focus here on things that produce value is key, right? Because if you get distracted, get shiny object syndrome, you'll never get anything done. And if you don't get anything done, you're not producing value, you're not getting results, right? And you're same position as you were, but you have more knowledge packed in here. Knowledge, right? It's like knowing all the fantasy football stats. It's like, great, but like, are you really going to be able to create a career? Some people do, but like in general, you're not really going to be able to use that for any sort of practical value in the real world beyond like limited scopes of entertainment. So you got to think about, how can I apply this to where I can actually make real money from this based upon what I want with my life? And that's something to think about. So anyways, it's cool. It's cool to see this advancement in technology. It's going to be a crazy summer with the IPOs and all this kind of stuff. There's going to be chaos. Well, who knows if like the hype and the potential and power of these models is going to be throttled in the future, if it's just juiced up right now to get people on board, and then we'll see some turbulence in the future. That's going to be really interesting to pay attention to and watch and see how this stuff progresses once the economic dynamics shift over the next few months. But again, I'm hopelessly optimistic. You have to be. Hey, we're alive. We're humans. We got to be optimistic about technology and what we're doing, because if you are, right, you could always try to push for a better path. If you are not optimistic about this kind of stuff, it just can put you in a dark place, thinking that you're hopeless, thinking there's nothing to do, thinking there's no point, and all that kind of stuff, right? But if you're optimistic, you see opportunities. And that's the key thing. And there's always going to be opportunities no matter what. They might be different than what you had trained your brain to find, but that's why retraining your brain, new perspectives, right? Going out, sometimes touching grass, going exploring and seeing new things, talking to people, you'll get insights that you didn't have before, and you'll have tools that you can actually use to pursue those. And I think that's really cool. And that's what I try to help people with these videos, with these updates, with my book, with the Arsenal. If you want to go and get trainings, there's a bunch of new stuff coming out this month for all the members of the Arsenal. And if you're a new member, there's a ton of great stuff in there that you can start learning, building your foundation, getting set up, and start becoming an AI operator so that you have a place in this new AI economy that's not going away anytime soon. So that's it for this one. Subscribe, follow for more. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.